hit record. Well, welcome to our October Midday Cafe. We are so grateful that you're with us. If you're joining us for the first time, this is just a gathering of folks who love the Enneagram and are really just grateful to be in community during these times. It is a trying time, and so we love to connect with you and are so grateful that you've taken out this 50 minutes just to be with us. And so we do want to let you know it is being recorded, and we do host it on our YouTube channel. So if there's something that you share, just know that it's recorded and it's public. And so, but we do invite you to interact, and hope that you'll do that. Want to let you know about a couple of great things that are happening in the IEA Great Lakes region. And as we said and laugh about, we really have expanded to any place that has a lake, really. We just love being together. And so I'm going to be posting some trainings and ways that you can connect here in the chat. But Marcy Maderi up in the Loughrige, Illinois area has gone all online, and she's hosting some Enneagram panels that you can be a part of. And so we'll give you a link for that. If you are interested in IEA accredited certification, we've got two dynamite, really mothers and fathers in the Enneagram world that are hosting trainings next January in the winter. And so Clare and Scott Loughrige are hosting the Enneagram Motions of the Soul. And it is an outstanding training with the Harmony Enneagram, just pairing the Ignatian practices. And so we'll post a link for that as well in historic Marshall, Michigan. And then if you would rather visit Michigan in the summer, there's an opportunity in June as well. And then Dr. Jerry Wagner has his trainings that are coming back to the calendar online winter, spring, and summer of 2021. So his website, Enneagram Spectrum, I'll put a link there as well, so you can connect with Dr. Wagner's trainings. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our IEA Great Lakes president, Clare Loughrige, and she's going to introduce our guest today.
Yeah, and so welcome. And if you guys can turn your cameras on, we'd love to see you. But if you can't, we get that too. Trust me, I've been in my pajamas, curled up in my bed on a few Zoom calls and didn't turn my camera on. So completely respect that. Anyway, I'd like to open with just a little bit of quiet, so that we can prepare ourselves for the gift of Danielle today. We can prepare to hear from a person who is practicing with the Enneagram and teaching the Enneagram. And so maybe you get comfortable, and I love some of you just hold your warm cup if you like. That always feels really good to me. And sniffing what is in as a way to open up the senses. And just allow yourself to settle into the chair. Back straight. Alert, but relaxed. Just notice where your body is hitting the chair or your feet on the floor if you're standing. And give yourself a really mindful way of breathing for 5 breaths, however breathing serves your current condition best, whether it's in for 5, holding for 5, out for 5, or whatever way you can just open up space and bring yourself here in this moment. Autumn is a season of great beauty, but it is also a season of decline. The days grow shorter, the light is suffused, and summer's abundance decays toward winter's death. Faced with this inevitable winter, what does nature do in autumn? She scatters the seeds that will bring new growth in the spring. And she scatters them with amazing abandon. In the autumnal events of my own experience, I am easily fixated on surface appearances, on the decline of meaning, the decay of relationships, the death of work. And yet, if I look more deeply, I may see the myriad possibilities being planted to bear fruit in some season yet to come. And so if you're near a window and just can open your eyes and allow the season of autumn to come fully into your consciousness and into your eyesight. If you don't have a window, let the eyes of your imagination take you to a beautiful autumn scene. And as you're taking this in, let the words of Parker Palmer telling us that nature is spreading seed in reckless abandon, and that there is great beauty in this autumn season, that the mystery of letting go and opening up. Opening up to what is sure to come again in another season. And then maybe you can bring your gaze to the screen and realize that even though the season is autumn, there are people in many different seasons here today. Some feel like they're in spring and everything is coming up green and beautiful. Others are in a winter time of their lives where things are stripped bare. And what I want to say is it's really good to be in community, because then we can remind one another that while there may be a particular season we're experiencing ourselves, that there's someone else in the room that's reminding us of the other seasons of life. And I want to say that that really is the truth about my friend Danielle Fanfair. She is reminding me of spring and sheer pulse and gratitude and things coming up for her that are really graced. And so we want to receive her from where she is and receive any gift that might be ours to receive today. Maybe you looked up Danielle already and you checked out her bio on her page, daniellefanfair.com. Easy enough to remember there. And you found out, many of the things that she's doing. And so I just want to let you know that Danielle is one of those people that says things like, you are more valuable and powerful than you know. And Danielle, you work with events and strategic direction. You were a pastoral leader for 13 years. You are a full-time teacher and Enneagram guide at this moment as a certified teacher. You've put together a curriculum called From Confusion to Clarity. And I loved your article on superpowers, because I really could use some superpowers, sister. So we want to welcome you today. Can you guys all just welcome Danielle in all the ways that you do it from wherever you are? Maybe your own Enneagram type, the way you might do it, however you might do that. And Danielle's going to guide us in a discussion today around superpowers. And we may get to some diversity conversation, which she has been leading some business conversations around diversity and inclusion. Really important time. But if we don't get to that today, just know that we're scheduling her again next month to talk about diversity and inclusion. And so Danielle, welcome. And can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I love that you said that you're a rare native Houstonian. So could you tell us what that means? And then tell us how you came to love the Enneagram, how you were introduced, and maybe, something personal about yourself, a couple of headlines.
Of course. Yes. Thank you all for that welcome. I really appreciate it. And, I always like to stop and point out when I am standing in a vision when there was a request granted. And I asked, God, however we experience our creator and however we speak to our creator, I asked that energy for a community that I could contribute to and learn from. And within a week, Claire emailed me and asked me to be a part of this community. And so I am standing in a sacred yes, and I'm just so grateful. So just get that out the way. I want to acknowledge when things manifest because it's just so beautiful. Yeah, Leanne, I'm celebrating with you. So I am a rare native Houstonian, which means Houston is this place that people are no longer from. They just moved to. And so when you're walking down the street in Houston these days with your mask on, hopefully, you are liable to meet people that are from all continents, every state. You will intersect with every kind of person. Houston is a national leader in diversity. We were the first major city to be split exactly 25%, 25%, 25%, and 25% in terms of continent of origin. So 25% Latin X, 25% African or African American, 25% Asian American, and then 25% Caucasian American. And Houston has been studied for a long time by this sociologist named Dr. Kleinberg. And we've learned that Houston is a national predictor of what will happen in the United States by 10 to 20 years. And so when you're from Houston, I always say you're from Houston, you're from the future. So yeah, and it's really rare to be a native here. It's rare to be from here. It's almost like LA was in the 90s. Everybody is going to this city because of the opportunities, because of the rate of growth. And because Houston is not a who you know town, Houston is a what do you contribute town. And so it's really a great place to put down new roots and grow. The way that I came to the Enneagram, well, I was a burnout pastoral leader. I had this anger that I could not extinguish. My brain was on this loop of resentment, and I was beginning to preach messages that I no longer believed. And I did not know how to get myself off of that hamster wheel of resentment and anger. And a beautiful relationship formed where a mentor of our organization, I co-founded what started as a church, grew into a vocational incubator, and a beautiful mentor and a donor gave us a scholarship to attend the Gravity Grounding Retreat in Omaha, Nebraska with Chris and Felina Hewerts. And Chris and Felina just welcomed me, and the retreat was at a monastery in Schuyler, Nebraska. And so I'm in Schuyler, Nebraska at a monastery. I'm already like, what? I'm from Houston. I'm a Bayou City girl, So I did not expect to find myself at a monastery in Nebraska, like talking about Jennifer Hudson with a monk. You know what I'm saying? And so there was an apple orchard that I would go and be angry in on the breaks. And I literally remember writing in my journal, I'm so angry. I have so much resentment. I do not know what to do with it. And there was just a quick announcement. Hey, we're doing this Enneagram workshop at 2:00. It's not a big deal. If you guys want to come. If you don't. And I was heading back out to the orchard to be mad. And then something, that nudge just nudged me gently and said, just go in there and just, it's an interesting word. Go and understand. And meanwhile, I have always rejected personality tests. I have rejected Myers-Briggs. Every time I work for any organization and they start doing that stuff, I conveniently take that day off because I'm like, you can't categorize me. It's never been nothing like me. Ain't never going to be nothing like me. So there's no way you can put me in a box of some letters or numbers or whatever. I would scoff at the disc. I would scoff at the strength finders. I was like, I know my strengths, And so the way that entire journal was spilled out on that board when I learned about the dominant personality type 1. Like, I remember being like, okay, you can move on to the next one. We've heard enough about you can just go to the 2. You know what I mean? Just stop telling my business. I felt like my mail was read. And then Chris got to the passions and fixations and that anger and that resentment and the way that I could use it and understand it as information, and the way that I could move through it to how I love to show up, which is as this very calm, serene, task-oriented problem solver, just made my heart just break open, because I finally had a place to move through what I was experiencing, rather than stay stuck in it and be told, here's a scripture, go pray, here's a fast, here's some way to discipline yourself for being who you are, you know? And so the Enneagram found me in a monastery, in a monk's lounge in Schuyler, Nebraska, brought to me through Chris and Felina Hewart's, surrounded by meditation and contemplation, and this loving welcoming of myself began to unfold. And I have been hooked on helping other people love and welcome and deeply respect themselves ever since.
Well, I'm so grateful that you can talk about what the anger and resentment was before you knew that it was actually the passion and fixation, that there was really clearly this, you were naming it before you actually were able to say, oh, and so I love it. And I also love that you then began to think about the Enneagram with superpowers. And so, I think everybody in this moment would like their superpowers to show up.
Yeah.
Fix COVID and end racism, and that we would actually learn to be more human and more divine. So I'm wondering, I know you're not putting on a red cape. I know you're not getting into a phone booth, but tell us, can you go around the circle with these 9 superpowers? Absolutely. And how you see them?
Absolutely. So, and I do, my cape is more, leopard. So I like a printed cape. But yeah, I am such a Marvel DC comic just fan. And I had a very nomadic and tumultuous childhood. And I began to connect with the Bruce Waynes and the Peter Parkers, of those comic books, because I didn't live with my parents. My parents were very young when they had me. They went through a very traumatic divorce, and I had these wonderful godparents who just over delivered in every sense of the word, and their home became this, they were the Aunt May, they became the place where I could really incubate my talent, learn, go to different worlds through books, and then begin to realize how my own story really fueled a lot of the gifts and the contributions that I make. And so I had been kind of stumbling through that myself on my own. And then when I learned about the Enneagram, it really helped me to help name and know specifically those superpowers. And, I think of them, of course, through the highest mind or the holy ideas, and through the virtues. I also think of them through what these personality types just kind of naturally accomplish with their presence. And so if I were to go around the circle, I would, and this is one of the things that has helped me to really welcome and co-conspire and co-create good making in the world with really any kind of person. And so we're starting in that gut triad, starting with the type 8. I absolutely adore and am just energized by the 8's natural commitment to truth and innocence, this natural inclination toward protecting and championing the rights of the vulnerable and the weak, valuing the innocence and the eight's ability to both fiercely protect and then intimately, tenderly love, and to be so unafraid of conflict because they fear the violation of the human life more than they fear the consequence of conflict. And so the eights just rush in and say, no, not my beloveds. You know, that is just an amazing superpower. And so many of us are conflict avoidant. Some of us are so just averse to having those hard conversations. But the type 8 says it's harder not to have the conversation. It's harder to live a lie than it is to embrace and know the truth. And so the superpower of the 8 is just being willing to stand I love one of my teachers. His name is Robert. I always forget his last name. He and Russ Hudson, along with some other teachers, did an amazing workshop earlier in the pandemic. But he said that the leader in the room is the person who recognizes the truth. And the eights recognize and move into the truth. And protect the innocence of those around them. And so I just love that. And then the type 9, when I think of a type 9, I don't know why the image of an archangel just comes to me, because the image that we have of angels, like these kind of flying, like rosy-cheeked beings, you know, with like harps and halos, to me is a false image. I see the image of an angel as like this strong presence that when the angel shows up behind you in the scriptures, what happens to everybody? They tremble in fear. They're like, oh, shoot. And so I feel like the 9's presence is so substantial and so important when you see that love in action that the 9's embody. And sometimes it's so quiet. Sometimes sometimes it is forward and in the spotlight, but sometimes it is just this very decisive movement that I am going to embody whatever action is required to demonstrate love and bring about peace and harmony for the people that I love. And that is a superpower. Some people stay so stuck in like looking left and right and not knowing. And I just love the superpower of the 9 of just moving into this, curating this ecosystem that brings about this peace. And it seems almost automatic. I admire it, of course. And, you know, moving into the dominant type 1, I always compare everybody else's superpowers against my own and have to do some work with silencing my inner critic in that way. But one of my favorite things about the dominant type 1 is the ability to arrive on the scene and have this 30,000 foot high perspective on how all of these things are working together, and then be able to then live horizontally among people, just gradually making these changes that create these good, positive updates. You know what I mean? I feel like ones are the system update. You know, when you get that little reminder, it's like, you have some system updates. Do you want it? And you click later, you click not now, you click tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like, listen, just later, you know? And the ones are that system update. And, you know, and the ones can update the systems that you have with such serenity. And you look around and things have been taken care of, and things are working and grooving and moving seamlessly and better than they were before. And I love the superpower of the one to be able to see how things could be better, but also how things are all working together for this perfect vision that's unfolding. And we could just ride that vision, you know? then moving into that heart triad. So I always say that I love how twos are just irrationally generous. Um, and the freedom with which twos lavish their love and help and generosity and friendship and kindness onto people. And then the two's ability to also recognize their edges and understand their own capacity and be able to trust that God is ordering the universe, almost like Tarzan slinging on the vines of the jungle, and that the twos are working together with this grand, helpful universe, and they're playing their part. And when their part is done, they can just trust that the help is still happening. It's just beautiful to me. And I always say that twos, like you want a two to help you move because they're moving you like they're moving in. You know what I mean? With the energy and with the intention of you really living your best life. And so I just love the superpower of twos. And I always say if it weren't for the twos in the world, we would be stepping over each other, just bleeding out, and we'd be just, just like, not, that's not my problem today. And I love two's superpower of empathizing and then compassionately standing in the shoes of those that they love, standing in the shoes, um, dominant people who are dominant in type 3, gosh, the vision, the polyphasic vision that threes see the world through, the ability that they have to be able to understand the championship in the preseason is just so amazing to me. And my husband is a type 3, and he can see the end, the hope, the innovation, the human evolution. He can see so far down the line to that ultimate end. And then he can be so comfortable working through all of the micro steps to get there. And he can do it with charm and gusto and enthusiasm. And he operates as if the future is now. He speaks those things as though they were, and I watch in amazement as they come to pass, And then when they do, he moves into this space of authenticity where he's like, I'm just one guy, and I just saw something that I knew could happen. I just saw a way that we could be better as humans and live better lives. And I just kept going towards what I saw, And so that ability to live in that space of hope and to live in that space as though it were a universal law, and then bring their full authentic selves to it, and to be honest about who they are and everything that they bring to it, is such a genuine superpower. And then I love my fours because, gosh, the ability of the four to just bring their touch and bring their vision and bring their sight of beauty and to bring their connection with their origin to everything. I look at the work and even the living spaces of fours, and I see God. I see like these unique ways of touching, positioning, and organizing things that is so intuitive and so beautiful. And I can't believe I didn't think of it, you know what I mean? And it's just not for me to think of. It's their contribution to make into my life, I love the ability of the fours to welcome every emotion and feeling, that equanimity and that emotional balance, because every time the four welcomes every emotion and feeling, they support us welcoming all of our emotions and feelings. And as we know, our emotions are like encyclopedias for our human condition. There's so much information that we can get from our emotions, both positive and negative. There's so much we can learn from our anger and our sorrow, from our grief, from our guilt, um, from our loneliness. There's also so much that we can learn from our joys and from our ecstasies and our exhilarations. And I was working with one of my fours who is a client, and she was like, I just believe that everything is an illusion. And so her approach is to to understand the illusions for the information that they have about the human condition, and then to hold the illusion loosely. And I was like, what? That sounds like a movie, you know? And so I love the four's beautiful approach to welcoming that which connects us to the divine and expressing that here in our human realm, right? Such a superpower. And some of the things that the products and the works of art and the things that we experience that come from fours, they zap right into and connect right into what we need as human beings, because that is their superpower. I always joke with one of my 5 clients that he begins every sentence with "according to my calculations." Like, I love that our 5s are just so comfortable with the details and the wonders of the small little facets of life that make up this omniscient, omnipresent wonder and curiosity that they have. And the ability they have to take in information, to store it in that mind palace, and then to bring it forward as wisdom. And as you know, wisdom, the definition of wisdom is applied knowledge. So to bring this wisdom forward as in a way that human beings can apply it and grow, to understand how things work so that we can all work better, I think it's just such a superpower and such a contribution. And I don't dismiss when a 5 starts talking. I'm always like, shh, 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 because they're so comfortable maintaining and observing all this information. But when they come forward and start to share what they know, what they realize, what they observe, is such a gift to us. When they embody what they know, when they activate what they know, when they come forward with what they know, it's such a gift to us. Especially in times like now, where we're depending on things like science and history in order to know which is the best path forward. Our 5s are such a gift to us. They're omnipresent knowledge and wisdom. I love our dominant 6s. I love the humor and the wit. And most comedians who are really funny right now are funny because they're telling the truth. And so the 6's ability to summon the courage and to operate in the faith, to speak to and illuminate what our current state is, the character and the cognitive dissonance that there may be between who we say we are and what we're living. I love the 6's ability to distinguish between head knowledge and core belief, and to be able to say, these words don't line up with the receipts that I have in terms of these actions. The way that the 6 is able to be loyal to a community, to be committed to a body, and that commitment be fueled by the courage and the faith to speak up and say what is right, and to understand what all the options are, and to secure and cover all those bases, is such a gift to us. I love how the 6s come forward and say, well, now wait a minute, because I have been listening and observing and researching and my observations have led me to some conclusions about what is best for our community. What a gift. We're all thinking about everything that we're thinking about. The 6s are thinking about us, and then the joyful, exuberant, passionate, wise 7 that brings their joie de vivre and merges that with the wisdom that they possess, the understanding that everything is working towards this holy plan, and the best companion and passenger to move through the seasons with as our type 7, to move through the ever-changing seasons of life. I love that 7s do not try to hold on to summer. 7s are already experiencing the crisp winds of fall, right? and looking forward to the winter, right? And so the ability of the 7 to, a lot like the 3, immediately fast forward to the good end, the good next, and then use that as a golden thread that pulls them through a hard part of a beautiful story is amazing. It's a superpower. And whether the 7 is in a club at 3 a.m. in Vegas or on a pilgrimage to Mecca, maybe they're gonna enjoy themselves. And the ability to enjoy yourself is a superpower. You know, I could talk for another hour about this, but
I can tell, because I think I was watching around the screen, and I know what several of the numbers are, and of our friends here. And when you could just see the affect, as soon as you started talking about a 6, Erica's eyebrow went up. And then it came into a smile. Rosemary, when you were talking about the 7, she's cracking up the whole time. And I think there is something really graced about hearing what is good about us right now. I think there's something really lovely, because I in the directees that I work with, in spiritual direction, and people that I pastor, they're all looking at what's wrong with them right now, and if they're awake in terms of their Enneagram vice and passion and fixation, and they'll come and say, I'm just so sick of myself, right? This keeps showing up. But what happened just now was, I mean, couldn't you all feel it? It was like wind beneath your wings, okay, yeah, I am awesome and more valuable than I know, and I wonder if there is a spiritual practice that, each of us could just, in the chat, like, your number, and then what helps you remember this kind of superpower, like what came, how does that come up for you when you're not listening to Danielle? When you don't have somebody that's giving you a way to see yourself, what is it that you'll do that helps you fill up with some sacred yes, as Danielle would put it, help you fill up with yes, this is me, and you get into the you knew there was a song coming, and where, even when we listen to a song like that, we want to feel that passion, we want to feel that I'm great, I'm not scared, I am who I'm meant to be, this is me. I know that's not the words, but it's something like that. So I wonder, what is it that helps you go there, so that you can give yourself a regular, nutritious supercharge, remembering yourself, remembering the gifts in you. And so I don't know if you want to put your type and what helps you remember. So we've got right here from Leanne, praying in color, and you've told us this before, Leanne, we know it's true about you, praying in color and creative expression to tell the truth and about how I'm feeling. And I feel like Tarzan swinging on a tree. Do you too, John Knox? Do you feel like Tarzan on a tree ever? I thought that was a great image, Danielle. Yeah. You going to say something, John?
No, I was just going to say, I felt like everything on all 9 types felt like this major breath of fresh air. I just felt the fresh air blowing through Zoom.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to share, Claire, I love that you have folks naming their practices, because the Sanskrit word for meditation is dhyanyi, and that word translates to become familiar with. And so when we give ourselves the space to go into these contemplative practices, when we give ourselves space to curate whatever the practice is, we literally become more intimately familiar with our own superpowers. And we emerge from that time so familiar with those superpowers that we naturally and automatically embody them so much more easily and without a lot of effort.
Beautiful. I love it. Diane, they're moving you like they're going to move in with you. I loved that too. What a great way to see twos. Yeah. Do exactly what you want and then celebrate it. Celebrate the freedom. Yeah. Come on. Throw your hands up. Love this from John, the prayer of examen, taking inventory to be reminded God allowed my true self to show up for people. That is really beautiful. And Erica, breath prayer. Do you want to say anything about that, Erica? Would you like to say what you wrote, or you want me to read it?
Oh, I sure can. As a head person, I mean, it can be like a mental Olympics. And so, Brene Brown calls it the story I'm telling myself. And so often the assumption is, the demise of my own self and the relationship that I'm engaging at the moment. And so just to take a breath and remember that mantra, even that I was encouraged to develop in your training, Claire, just courage promotes peace. And so for me to really take that breath, to quiet the mind and really drop down to my heart, experience my feelings, and be able to open up and drop the armor that maybe I have going on and move in with my body. And then I experience that peace. And so it's been really helpful. And I always have my breath with me. So it's such a gift because it's universal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a wonderful description of breath and quieting the mind. And Michelle, let's take a moment and everybody listen to a 5. That was a great explanation, Danielle, like when a 5 is going to speak, just everybody shh.
I felt that too. Yeah, for me, sometimes it's like I'm all in my head all the time, and it's all about the books and all about the notebooks and all about the learning and all about the stuff I know. But I know that that also keeps me small. And so my deal is, like getting brave enough to step into my 8. But when I do a training, when I teach a workshop, when I'm teaching a class, I am just like in my glory. And every time it reminds me, like, this is how I'm supposed to live in the world. This is my gift to the world. This is what I bring. Because when I just read and learn and know and make these aha moments in my own head, it's validating for me in my head, but it doesn't put anything into the world. It doesn't give anything to the world. And so that truly, when I'm, teaching, doing a workshop, I get excited about it. I love doing it. And that is like the celebrating of me when I'm at my very best.
Thank you, Michelle. We can feel that, even just your teaching us in that moment. Beautiful. And Glenda, as a 4, would you like to say anything? You don't have to, no coercion, but an invitation.
Here. It was so freeing for me to find out I was a 4, because I could never understand why I loved the beauty, and nobody else could understand where I was coming from. And that is one of the things in my times of meditation, 4s have emotions, lots of them. And you can feel them in other people a great deal. But when I bring them to him, he sorts them out and gives me clear perspective. And I always feel like I leave that time strengthened in who I am, and I can really choose to seek the beauty in everything, in everyday life, in moments. I feel so blessed to have found that I'm really okay.
Yes. And I loved what Danielle was saying about, the way 4s will help us find our emotions. because you are there, right? And so what a gift, what a superpower. So, maybe one more person
thing is that
before we go.
I've had-
One more person. Like to unmute and tell us about your superpower and how that felt to hear it today.
Okay, I would like to answer that question a little differently. I know they've already said it, but it's so much more community building because now I see how their superpower fits in with my superpower. I don't have to fight against it, feel like we're swimming upstream. We just go, oh, now I know how to be with you. Sorry, I'm a 5.
Beautiful, Margaret. And you're married to a 7, aren't you?
He says 7, I say 8 because I don't. He says 7, I say 8 because I'm not getting much of that joy from him anymore. He's into the doing more.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't talk for him.
Well, and so I love what you're saying about how these superpowers that being named here, that we're also breathing those in as a gift to us, that those powers are here for us. Those powers are here for our enjoyment, our, to be in solidarity together in the very divergent ways, for us to save one another when we've come up to our necks in the water, for us to offer all kinds of gifts. And maybe Danielle, do you have one more word going out before we go into a practice?
I do, yeah. One of the beautiful gifts of being able to name and know not just your superpower and everyone's superpower is now we have access to outsourcing superpowers around us. And so in the areas of our blind spots, which may be another midday cafe, Claire, but in the areas of our blind spots, we now have access to resources within each other. And so when I'm stuck in that loop of resentment and anger, I can bring my 3 husband into the picture and say, okay, I'm looking at what is here. Can you help me see what is beyond this? Can you help me see? And can you take your polyphasic vision and place it onto this circumstance? And while I'm looking at what went wrong and who's to blame, can you tell me what you see about how we can grow and innovate and move beyond this into an innovative future, right? How can you tell me how I can be upbeat and charming and how I can use this as a way to grow, right? Tell me what you see and tell me what you don't see in terms of how we can fill this space with ways to adapt and evolve as human beings. So in the areas of my own blind spots and perceived deficiencies, I can literally turn to him and outsource his superpower, and his contribution to my life is now completely manifested in a different way than just being my spouse that I'm here being a companion with. Mm-hmm. Now we are passengers, co-creators on each other's journeys, and he does the same thing with me. How would you change this? How would you make this better? What do you see from your joyfully, creatively reforming vision, right? And so he brings me into his areas of blind spots, and I illuminate things that he can't see with my superpower. So my invitation to you as we go out is to look around you and look at those Marvel characters that are right there with you and begin to outsource their superpowers and watch your relationship, your environment, and your life transform.
Well, that is a absolutely wonderful segue for us to practice something here together. And just wondering if you can bring to mind someone who has another Enneagram style that you've been having difficulty with, but now having heard their superpower, right? Maybe there's another person that has that same Enneagram style where you've seen that superpower. The 2 who helped you move like they were going to live there. The 5 that you wanted to be quiet and listen to. The 8 that showed up to take care of people, right? All the way around the circle. And so let's bring that person that has that superpower that maybe we have trouble with in another person. But we bring the one as a good, Mr. Rogers kind of practice. Let's bring the one that has the superpower into our consciousness for a minute. So just take a breath and consider the person that maybe you're having trouble with for a moment, and the way their vice or blind spot, those kinds of things have been showing up. And let's set that aside. And then bring the other one that has that same Enneagram style, that when you heard the description, you're like, oh, I know a person like that. And bring them fully into your mind. And maybe what it was they did for you, or showed you, or taught you, or how they embraced you, however that showed up. And bring that experience right down into your heart space. And breathe that experience in and around your heart, or that person in and around your heart. Maybe you want to put your hands on your heart, or you just want to breathe, letting the oxygen that's being given to you now offer you life. And just keep that presence, that memory, that experience of that person in your heart space here. And when you feel able to just come back to the people on this screen and give thanks to the people on this screen for being a loving presence, a listening presence, a wise, thoughtful, engaged group of people. And whatever way you say thank you, feel free to do that in your kind of your way, however you do. And let's go out with one word, just one word all the way around the circle. After I tell you that we're going to be bringing Danielle back to talk about diversity and inclusion, I want you to invite your friends, those people that we need to have conversation with, so that we can develop a way to receive the gifts around us in a time that feels so difficult. And so with that, that's next month. We'll have Danielle back. And if we could just go around the circle and give a word that you pray or you wish over the world right now. And let's begin with Lori, and then we'll go around. You get to say pass if you want to, but just a word that you would pray or wish over this group of people to take out into the world. And unmute yourself before you say your word, friends. Lori?
Community.
Claire, I'll say gratitude.
Grace.
Can you say that again? Was that you, Erica?
I said grace.
Grace.
I was going to say community, but I'll change it to mercy.
Compassion.
Connection.
Togetherness.
Peace.
Affirmation.
Strength.
Engage.
One more time.
Engage.
Be well, be safe, be
Oh, I'm
blessed.
sorry. I didn't say mine because I didn't see it light up. Acceptance. Acceptance.
Anyone else? I don't mean to miss you.
I'd like to just add cooperation.
Huge.
Well, maybe we can go out unless someone else wants to unmute. And I'll just say, all you need is love. Da, 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 da. Anybody want to unmute and sing it with me? All you need is love.
Love. Love is all you need.
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 Oh, can't wait for the next conference. You and I are going to rock out.
Love you guys. God bless you. Thank you.